I think that just going forward, kind of really seeing, and I'm trying my best not to turn this into a political, I'm trying to stay right in the center,
Right.
but kind of seeing what I saw in the past and really what the outlook is and what the current administration has, vocally said to us through the years is there's going to be a huge push and a lot of cash and a lot of capital put behind health insurance for those under the age of 65. How that's going to pan out, who knows? Anybody that's going to say anything, it's going to be pure speculation unless you're sitting down with the Congress person drafting the bill. But I think that for those that want to be in the under 65 space, I think there's going to be a huge, huge, huge opportunity, specifically because of this administration's goal is to make sure everybody has health insurance in the country.
We wanted a way that agents could hone their craft and be a part of a larger community, get the resources they need and information they need to know. We cover relevant topics in the industry that will help you close more sales. We talk to top producers and industry leaders to share knowledge and best practices from around the country. So if you want to make more sales, then listen up because we're dropping gold.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us on the show today. I'm really excited about this episode. It's been a little bit since I've dropped a podcast, and who better to bring on today to talk about the topic we're going to cover than Mr. Joe Tretola. Thank you so much for joining us today, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
I really appreciate you on MLK, man, taking time out to meet with us. But I think that for the topic at hand, you are one of the best people to talk to. So if you just want a little bit of background on Joe, his agency is called Nationcare Insurance, and these guys specialize not only in the Medicare market, they also specialize in the specialty of cross-selling to the Medicare market with ancillary products that are top notch. On top of that, Joe has a call center internally that focuses on direct to consumer. So, everything that Joe talks about, everything that Joe teaches, he's putting it into practice through the call center, which is always something that we love seeing. And now we got a huge focus that's coming out on the under 65 market. So Joe, I want you to kind of break down a little bit more about just a small bit about your agency, and then what is it that led you guys to get into that under 65 market?
All right, good questions. We actually have two agencies. We have one distribution of the agent downlines out there, and we work primarily with agents in the field, and then we work with call centers that are selling Medicare over the phone. We're actually the go-to in some of the South Florida call centers to sell Medicare Advantage. That's something we've been blessed with. We haven't really gone public with that over the last year, but we've been very blessed to work with some of the nation's leading med sub sellers. So it's been a beautiful and rewarding experience. And then locally here, we have another agency that exactly as you said, sells direct to consumer, where we have a bunch of agents that, come into the office location, and then some agents work from home, where they're selling primarily Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage plans. And then of course, when appropriate, doing some cross-selling. Under 65 was something I did before ACA, back in the day when you got paid 20 or 25% on a Humana or United Health One plan. And, right at the beginning part of ACA, we all sold, Assurant and all the other, Obamacare-based products when they actually paid commissions. And then there was like a lull, like 2015 to about 2018, where just kind of everything got wiped out in terms of compensation. So there really wasn't a, kind of a need for us at that point. We sold some short-term stuff, but the focus was on Medicare. And then in the last 2 years, and, I'll give credit where credit's due. It's really Justin Brock, who's, kind of been very vocal about it the last couple of years. He's, really put under 65 under the viewpoints of a lot of people, including myself. And, demand from agents, forced us we had to catch up with the times. We had to be able to compete because everybody was moving faster than we were in offering under 65. I mean, we had a few contracts, but we didn't have anything, as far as a platform goes. And early last year, we built out a platform where we wanted to create a one ecosystem where the agent could come on board, can contract with, 80 to 85% of the carriers that they would need in their market that they would work in, whether it's over the phone or local. And they would have one place to go quote, one place to do the application, mostly one place to get paid. We offered advancing when advancing really wasn't a thing, so the agent can get started a little bit quicker. We offered a lead program, and I think I kind of deviated from your original question, but I'm rambling on and on and on, and then it became something, and we created an entire platform just built out specifically for under 65. But it was, I'll always give the credit where the credit's due. I give Justin the props. He was the one that really kind of brought out the air horn and sounded the alarm, and we all kind of followed.
So one of the things, though, that going back to what you mentioned, there was this lull, right? There's a period of time where it got into a lot of people's heads because the reality was there was no money to be made in it during that 2015 to 2018 time period. So what exactly is the opportunity now? Like, why is it all of a sudden so tempting and at least getting so much traction? Because obviously agents aren't going to get behind it, if it isn't something that's good for the client and also good for helping to grow their business. So what exactly is, I guess, the opportunity now that's making it so attractive?
The compensation, now the agent is in a position where an under 65 sale on the ACA market, quote, Obamacare, pays a very similar commission to a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare supplement policy.
Oh, okay.
Absolute dollars are very, very similar. Not on every single carrier, but, kind of a blended overlay. It's about similar. So there's a lot more opportunity. Yeah.
Same thing with the residual side of things?
Residual goes down just a tad bit from what I understand in year 2, but it's a very attractive stream of income. I'll tell you, I was one of and I admit this on any of the trainings I ever did, I always admit I was one of the naysayers during that period of time up until maybe, 2019, where somebody would talk about selling ACA. I would be one of those that's saying, hey, you're wasting your time, just send them to the carrier. Until I really got in and I started to look at it and said, well, wow, this is a little bit different. The application process is easy. I only did a handful of ACAs this past open enrollment. I don't do much production for my other responsibilities, but the handful that I did, it literally was a 5-minute process.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't believe the process compared to the way it was back in 2013, 2014.
How do we compare, because you brought up this comparison between Medicare Advantage in terms of its compensation, but what about in getting prepared to sell? So an agent who wants to get into that side of things, how difficult is it compared to Medicare Advantage, like in terms of certification and contracting, and which one's more difficult in your opinion?
Medicare Advantage is more difficult because each insurance company has their own criteria to open up the path to represent them. In the under 65 space, you have to do the FFM certification, which, is a couple of hours. You can kind of compare that to the AHIP. I think it's a much more longer, daunting, slideshow process than AHIP is. AHIP, you can kind of quickly jump to the test. And if you've taken it, for as many years as we have, you can literally just pass it in, I think the name of the game now is how fast can I pass the AHIP? How quickly can I get it done? FFM was a bit, for someone that's not, entrenched in the industry, it was a little bit of a learning curve for me, the second time around, because I did FFM back in whatever it was, 13 or 14, whenever it hit, 12, 13, 14. It was a bit more challenging, but the carriers, once you put in the request, you get your writing number relatively quick, and you don't have to go through these, annual based certifications. It's pretty fast.
So that's, and again, then let's just say, because if we're talking about somebody says, hey, Joe, I want to get in the Medicare Advantage space. And you're like, okay, well, at minimum, we're going to need you to get set up with these 4 Medicare Advantage carriers. Each of them are going to require their own certification plus the AHIP side, so they're looking at maybe having to spend a week, right, on getting prepared with going through certifications, right, if they're going at their pace. On the underage side, because like what you're saying, you basically, it's like one certification to rule them all. How quickly can someone get through that? Is it like a couple
Yeah,
hours?
very fast. They can get it done in the same day.
Yeah.
A
So
few hours. I would say if you've never done it before, if it's a brand new set of concept, you probably want to allocate about 4 hours. If it's your very first time. But if you have some knowledge and understanding of the under 65 space, you could probably get it done in about two.
about 2 hours. Okay. So, and again, going back to, there's a lot of experts coming out in the marketplace, saying and talking about the opportunity, talking about, they're hiring as well, or recruiting agents to be in their hierarchy. One of the things that I saw that you were doing is you were bringing on some very talented producers that were in that space to actually help with your agency, so that when new agents were joining you, they were basically going to be supported by some of the best in the industry. So tell me a little bit more about who it is that you brought on specifically for the under 65 opportunity to help with the agents joining your hierarchy.
It's a good question. So when we were trying to figure out how to do this, again, we wanted to be competitive with what other people were offering out there. I knew that I wasn't going to be the figurehead of that. Like, again, one of the things we pride ourselves here is our transparency. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad. It's just how I live. It's worked so far. We try to be as transparent as possible. And I knew going into this, like, I was not going to be the under 65 guy. Like, I could tell you how to sell it, but as far as like building a business out and how to do an application, it's just, you're going to hit the brick wall by asking me. But I noticed something in all the other groups, that anytime somebody asked an under 65 question, there was always 3 or 4 individuals that other agents would tag in the comments line. And I've been noticing this for a long time, for 2 years or 3 years or however long the Facebook world existed. And I said to myself, and Joanna too, we said to ourselves, it would be really good if one of those 3 people actually decided that they'd want to work with us. Like, that would be like really awesome if it worked out.
Yeah.
You're friends with them, get a phone call going. I don't know what to expect. Let's just talk. Let's see where they're at. And the first call we had was with Malia Rogers. And I remember hanging up the phone, and she was real cool. She's like, let me think about it. And about a week later, we get this formal professional written email of like an acceptance. And I was like, my eyeballs popped out of my head, and I'm like, oh my God, she said yes. It was like a business prom day. Like, yes. She's gonna do it. This is awesome. Like, I want her. No. And then Mike Shellback came. We had a personal relationship, and then soon it was George Beach. He was the third. And these 3 individuals, the way that we design the hierarchy is that when the agent comes in, they have a choice to work with one of those 3 or none of those 3. It's entirely up to the agent. But if the agent needs some hand-holding, we encourage them to pick one of the 3. And they basically take the agent's hand and walk them through, like, how to set up your FFM certification. Here's the carriers that you should contract with. Here's the carriers that you don't need to waste your time with because of what you're going to do. Here's all the training videos. Watch these videos. Don't worry about those videos. And if you have any questions, here's the private labeled Facebook group that you can go into. And it's like a real department. It's like a true carved out corner of the company, and it's really, really impressive.
Yeah.
And they do training. Like, Malia is really, really awesome. Not that the other 2 aren't. Everybody's super awesome, but I'm going to have her stand out for just a little bit because she's created these grassroots based trainings that, quite frankly, like a lot of agents need. Not a lot of agents can walk into our industry with a bankroll of, marketing. You know what an acquisition cost is for a client. It's hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and they don't have that kind of cash out of the starting gate. And so she's doing a lot of training about how she has grown her business, and it's really cool. It's got a lot of good response.
If we're talking about how you make these sales, the majority of the agents, are they doing it face to face, or are they doing it telephonically?
I think that the majority of the agents that we've been attracting in the last year have been mainly face to face agents that, as a result of what has happened in our society, have had to force themselves to be more telephonically active.
Right.
So it's more of a hybrid model, not so much as a true telesales model, more of a hybrid. So face-to-face agents being forced to do some business telephonically.
So if we're talking about doing it telephonically, and I guess even in person, would you say the regulations in how you can market and sell the products are more similar to MedSup or Medicare Advantage in terms of its, regulation of what you can say, when you can say it, all that stuff?
I would say that it's actually less than MedSup. So
Less
it's
than MedSup.
definitely, oh yeah, absolutely, because you're appealing to a much wider audience. You're not really marketing products that are government subsidized. Yes, the premiums are subsidized, but that's really just a rebate or an advance on a tax credit that you would receive in the following year when you reconcile. So it's not like the government is funding the cost of the coverage. So that entire regulation is out of the equation, and the main overseer tends to be the states. When it comes to misrepresentation, and of course, on the other end of the spectrum, the more criminal acts of that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't go out there and put an ad that says, I guarantee your rates to be $10 a month. Click here. You still have to follow your state's rules and guidelines and so forth, but it's definitely lesser restrictive than Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement. I mean, if you had to compare one to either or, I would compare it to MedSup in terms of its regulation.
Well, that again makes it even more appealing, because that's one of the things that makes Medicare Advantage not as appealing, is just all the nuances of how you have to be careful what you say, when you say, how you market. And it just makes that, the opportunity more appealing to know that you can, like you mentioned earlier, quickly get contracted, quickly get certified, and then B, know that you can start marketing without having to jump through a million hoops in order to get ads out there so that you can start talking to people. So, what do you see in terms of the longevity of this opportunity? Because in the Medicare world, we talk a lot about, hey, you're going to have these turning 65 for the next, at this point, in the next 10 years now. You have people turning 65, 10,000 a day. So, but even after that 10 years is up, there's still going to be a huge number of people turning 65 every single day. But in terms of the under 65 market currently, what do you see in terms of its longevity with the way that everything's structured politically and just the way everything's designed?
The only thing that I'm not sure about is when the mandate was taken away to get health insurance. I don't know, it was about 2 years ago. I don't know if that was as a result of a Supreme Court decision or as a result of an executive order. It's just my ignorance in that area. I don't really know. If it was as a result of an executive order, I think with the blue wave, you're most likely going to see something like that overturned, and you'll see it being more of a mandate like it was in the past, where if you didn't buy a minimally essential health plan or had an exception not to get one, you would be charged a penalty on your income taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that happening. If it was a Supreme Court decision, then obviously that's the highest court, and that it is what it is. I think that just going forward, kind of really seeing, and I'm trying my best not to turn this into a political, I'm trying to stay right in the center,
Right.
But kind of seeing what I saw in the past and really what the outlook is and what the current administration has, vocally said to us through the years, is there's going to be a huge push and a lot of cash and a lot of capital put behind health insurance for those under the age of 65. How that's going to pan out, who knows? Anybody that's going to say anything, it's going to be pure speculation unless
Mm-hmm.
you're sitting down with the Congress person drafting the bill. But I think that for those that want to be in the under 65 space, I think there's going to be a huge opportunity, specifically because of this administration's goal is to make sure everybody has health insurance in the country. So whether it's Medicare for all, whether it's a single payer system, whether it's beefing up the ACA market so there's more players, whether it's allowing us to buy across border, whatever that answer is, there's going to be some kind of better opportunity tomorrow than there is today for under 65. Medicare too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If they reduce the Medicare age from 65 to 62, I mean, 35% growth next year.
Yeah.
Everybody's the money will fall out of the trees. You won't be able to bring it to the bank. You know
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about. You couldn't stuff more money. Your SEP would be maxed out. You couldn't stuff more money in the bank if they dropped the Medicare age down just 3 years. I mean,
Yeah.
that whole segment of people, it's ripe, very ripe market.
So the one thing that I wanted to quickly go back to, just to kind of get back into the process of it all, you mentioned about selling and being able to sell across state lines. Right now, if you wanted to sell, because if I'm in Arizona and I wanted to sell in Florida, as long as I have a non-resident Florida license, I could still get licensed to sell underage health insurance in Florida from Arizona, right?
Correct.
Okay.
For
So
most carriers, not some carriers are still considered captive, so you wouldn't be able to sell some carriers.
yeah.
But for most carriers, you can.
Okay, perfect. Because I know that's again one of the things since COVID, a lot of people have been switching to learning how to sell telephonically because, well, it's just again, there's going to be a lot of people who are not as willing. Maybe not in Florida because you guys have one of the most open states for COVID, but in a lot of other places, there might be a lot of seniors. Well, actually, we're not dealing with seniors, but still,
we got to wear masks everywhere we are.
Yeah. Oh, you do? Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. At least this part.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then so I think that ultimately one of the things for me, I guess, being that I've been in the senior market for so long, is that switch where I always think about, there are certain things that will be different when you're working with a younger market, right? There's going to be a difference in terms of their adaptiveness to technology. So I think that
Huge
maybe doing
difference.
e-apps can be very easy with them.
Absolutely.
And so what would you say is one of the ways that as an agent you can differentiate yourself enough where the younger generation like myself, maybe I would just go direct to a website and try to do everything on my own. Like, how do you differentiate yourself so that people won't do that and instead want to work with you?
For one, you have to explain to that prospect that you're talking to what your value is. I always tell people that all the plans are the same, whether you work with us or somebody down the street. The plan outcome is going to be identical. We can't change the terms and conditions of the plan, but the difference is you get me or you get us, and here's why you would want to work with us, and you have to outline all your reasons. I could tell you this. When you take Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, and you take under 65, when we look at the percentage of customer service calls for each of the product lines, under 65 is our least amount of clientele. We have the least number of clients in under 65, but we have the highest percentage of inbound calls for that product line. Because it's not as streamlined as the one thing that I did come to realize is it's not as streamlined. Like somebody called the other day saying they never got their medical card. I'm not deep invested into the product line, so I have to go and figure out, somebody in my office has to go and figure out how to get them their medical ID card. If they called in with a WellCare plan and they didn't have their medical ID card, I know I can go on Medicare.gov or whatnot and pull all their pertinent information. So I don't know if that's true or not on the under 65, but the other thing too is you're dealing with so many more plans. So there's a bit more on the knowledge side, because each health insurance company may have 6 or 7 plans in every single market that they work in, or even more, 10 or 12. Whereas on Medicare Advantage, you generally get 1 or 2, sometimes 3 on the higher end, but usually 1 or 2 on the insurance company side.
But do you have tools that you have tools similar to what we have with CSG, Medicare.gov, that when we're working in other states where there's multiple products, or like you're saying, multiple product lines, that it can help us to quickly scan and see what's going to be a better fit?
Absolutely. We subscribe to Quote It. And what we did was we got the Agency Pro subscription that a regular agent would spend $200 a month on.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fully loaded, Cadillac CTS. And what we did was we broke it down and we sell off individual subscriptions to that for I think it's $45 a month. So about 75% off. It takes you about, I'm not going to shortchange the time. It takes a good 2 hours to like set your quote up, personalize it for you.
Mm-hmm.
But basically it has all the ACA carriers. It's got most of the short-term medical carriers. So I should say all the ones that you would sell.
Yeah.
It's got all the ancillary products all built into one ecosystem. And you can put in the client's, name, zip code, and all that fun stuff. And then you can put in their doctor's names, you can put in their medicine, and you can hit a button and it'll show you what plans the doctors take and what
Solid.
plans the medicine will be covered. And then you hit one more button and you send them out an application. They hit a button on their side, type in a little bit of information, they hit submit, and that's it, they're enrolled. I mean, it's
Wow.
like, when I say like a 5-minute process, like if we played a game and you had the little timer and you're like, okay, go, I could do the entire, the whole thing in a 5-minute window from start
That's
to
wild.
finish.
So
Yeah, it's faster than Connecture or Sunfire.
So let's say that your I guess when it comes to compensation, because let's say you write up a family, because in the Medicare world, we're used to writing up a singular person and getting paid either a fixed amount with Medicare Advantage, or we get paid a percentage of their premium with MedSup. How does it work in the under 65 market? Is it going to be a flat rate that you're getting paid per enrolled person, or are you getting paid a percentage of the premiums they're paying?
That's a great question. Most of the on-exchange carriers, the Bright Healths, the AM Betters, the Cignas, the ones that are, Obamacare,
Mm-hmm.
they pay a per member per month, PMPM, and that's per member per month. So if you have a husband and wife and 3 kids, that's 5 members. And if you're at, $15 per member per month, that's $75 a month you'll get in the
One
first
family.
year. Yeah, one family. And then if you're I don't want to use an adjective, but if you sell an ancillary product with them, you would be paid on that as well. That's typically a percentage of the premium.
Yeah.
On the short-term health side and the limited medical, which is still 2 huge markets, that those products are typically paid commissions as a percentage of the annual premium. And that can range, that's all over the map. I've seen it as low as 10%, depending on the state. And then on the really, really high end, you can get into the 30 and 40% range.
So if we're talking about, I guess you're basically saying almost all the Obamacare plans are going to pay per member per month. They're not going to be in any kind of percentage, right?
There are a few carriers. Again, I'm not the expert in this area. I believe Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas pays still percentage of premium. I could be completely wrong. And I'm sure around the country there's others, but at least the main national-based carriers are all PMPMs.
Okay. So yeah. And that, I guess that way, one of the maybe the appealing things is that regardless of whether the family you're helping is getting subsidized or not, you're still going to get paid the same rate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whether they pay a $1,500 premium or a $15 premium, you're getting paid identically the same.
Solid. Well, it sounds like, oh, go ahead.
I have a friend that has a call center in Fort Lauderdale. I visit. In fact,
Yeah.
we recently just went on vacation together. And like the growth that he has had in the past year has been, millions and millions and millions of dollars in revenue, like in just 1 year.
Wow.
Like unreal amounts. Like even now they're still doing 40-ish apps a day outside of open enrollment.
Outside of call centers though, because that's the other thing that you see out there a lot, like the people that are being interviewed and talking about the success they're having, they normally have a team that's helping with doing that. What would you say though is the opportunity to the independent agent who's just going to be, it's a one-man shop or a one-woman shop?
So the way I look at it is there's different ways you can be successful with under 65. So one way is you can just add it on as a side dish to your menu of offerings.
Yeah.
To accommodate the husbands and the wives and the children of your Medicare clientele. And that agent, depending on how busy they are in Medicare, they could probably be in a position where they write 20 to 30 applications a year. A good 200 app Medicare agent can effectively do 10% of their Medicare book in under 65. And that's what we see mostly. We see mostly, side hustles where it's kind of a, like I said, a side dish on the menu,
Yeah.
potatoes or green beans. But if I were to start over, so if I were to go back into the field, rip away every bit of my responsibility today, and, we played a game and you told me I had to go be a Medicare agent, what I would do is I would be marketing for inexpensive marketing and lesser costing leads. I would be marketing to people 60, 61, and 62 to 65 for their under 65 for two reasons. One, shot at short-term med, if appropriate, and the premiums are juicy at that age. And then number two, if not appropriate, you always have ACA to fall back on. But there's a good shot if you're marketing, and I'm just giving you a blended idea here, but if you're marketing to women 60, 61, and 62, there's a good chance they're married to an older guy, 65 or above. So you can secure the relationship and then ask for the opportunity to compete for his Medicare business.
Yeah.
Me also doing your other Medicare marketing, but that would be one area I would focus in on. And then when those people age in the next 3 years, you now have this huge, hopefully huge, but this huge book of business rolling in.
Yeah.
And so forth. That would probably be the way that I would do it. If I was just going to be an under 65 person, then you can kind of open it up to people of all ages. I would start at age 26 though with the marketing.
So it's not, I mean, it's pretty easily fathomable to, if you're already an existing Medicare agent who's going to pick up this, add an additional feather to your cap for the under 65 market, that, you could bring in an additional, 30 to 50K in revenue during, building your block over the course of a year.
Depends on how busy you are. I wouldn't think that 30 to 50K would be realistic for a 200 app agent. If the agent was more like a 500 app agent, I would say that's probably more realistic. But I would say that to be fair, a 200 app agency can probably bring in another $1,000 a month in revenue, just by having it as a side item to their offerings. They have to have the ear open, and when they sit down with the husband, and if the wife is younger, they got to be able to, transition over to talk about the spouse.
Gotcha. So for the people, just to kind of wrap this up, the people who are looking to join your team, since you have, like you mentioned earlier, you have your experts now for that specific market, what can they expect when joining your team in terms of, contracting, training, and getting ready to get into the market for under 65?
It's a multiple step process. The first thing we do is we ask them to schedule a call with either Malia, Michael, or George of their choice, or if they don't want to work with any one of them, they would schedule a call with me or Joanna. And basically we would have a discussion, and it's more about our understanding on whether or not they're really serious about being in the business. And number two, they're at least coming to us with a plan. It doesn't have to be that they have a business plan, but they can't just come and say, I want a residual business. Like you gotta give me more than that. Like everybody wants a residual. Who doesn't, or I want renewals. Okay, great. That's yay. Okay. Talk to me about before that. So they at least have to come with some kind of, vision. I guess that's the word I was looking for, their vision. And then if we decide that we're going to be suited for each other, because we're not suited for everyone, we would then take kind of a snapshot of their market, see what kind of carriers they would need, and then they would begin the contracting process. And then they would be given kind of a laundry list of things that they had to do. They have to go and get FFM certified on their own, click here. They have to have insurance. If they don't, they can tap into the agency one. We provide, but it has to be for our carriers, of course. And then they have to just demonstrate kind of a general overall competence in the area. And then we'll ask them to watch some training videos. I know training videos are never, fun, but, it's something you can do. I personally watch training videos. I enjoy training videos because I could do it, when everybody's in bed and my son is sleeping and it's quiet in my house and whatnot. So we ask them to watch a few training videos, and then the magic starts from there.
Solid. So what I'll do is, I'll post how somebody can reach out to you. I mean, obviously they can, if they're watching this on Facebook, you can always look up Joe on Facebook and shoot him a message, or any of his team. And that way you guys also can check out Medicare Mentors, which is the Facebook group that Joe and Joanna run, which is an awesome group. A lot of people chiming in with some great information there and helping each other. So that's also a good place where they could probably get in touch with you, right, Joe?
Absolutely. That's the best place.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. Like I said earlier this morning, I appreciate your time today, because I think that this market, it's getting a lot of eyes and ears, perking up, because as you mentioned earlier, the opportunity is there, even if it's a feather in your cap to throw on an additional $1,000, $1,500 a month just for uttering a few different words to try to capture some more business. I mean, it's a no-brainer, and it sounds like the contracting and the certification process is easy, and especially the application process. That's going to make it all the more attractive. So I definitely think that more and more agents, because here's one of the things I always try to emphasize to any of the agents that I've talked to, is that, in my opinion, the market is moving in a way where the portfolio agent will become king. It used to be that a lot of agents could focus on one product and be very successful, live a good life, have these great residuals coming in from the one product they're selling. But now, especially with the call centers getting bigger and bigger, call centers are trained to sell multiple products. So agents need to kind of keep up with that and offer multiple products in order to be able to best suit their clients and take care of them the best way possible. So what are your final thoughts on that?
Well, we work that into our scripting, especially during AEP, when people would call in from our website and our other media-based marketing, and they would have questions about their PDP.
Yeah.
And they would want help changing it. And part of our scripting was, we would be delighted to help you, but, in order for us to, help you here, we would love the privilege to compete for your Medicare supplement. Would you allow us, it's very eloquent, would you allow us the privilege to compete for your Medicare supplement? And as long as they say yes, we go and do our job, we do the PDP work, and as soon as we're done and say, now we did what we're supposed to do, and now it's your turn, let us compete. And 95% of the time we can successfully and ethically replace their med sup.
Yeah.
Same thing with the under 65 stuff. When somebody calls in and says, can you help with health insurance? We poke around a little bit, and as soon as we realize that there's a Medicare person in the house, that's part of our script. They go to like page 4, they read the paragraph, and it says, we'd be delighted to help you out here, and if we're successful with that, would we be allowed the privilege of? And almost everybody says yes.
Yeah.
Everybody says yes.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the trial close, right? That's kind of what you're doing there. You're always doing a trial close, which a lot of agents, they do not, especially in the phone sales, they do not train themselves to do that, to do the trial close. They're too nervous, they think that they'll get hung up on, but man, to me, it's more important to weed that out in the beginning than to find out at the very end.
I think a lot of that, and we can chat about this a different time, but I think a lot of that has to do with repetition. When you're like a single type of agent, a sole proprietor agent, and you only get, 19 leads in the week, if 2 of them fall apart, you could essentially be in a devastating position. We get 19 leads an hour to put it in perspective, 19 leads in 30 minutes. So, these guys are trained in buffer-based calls, and they're just so trained that, if the person just doesn't even sound, in the right frame of mind, they're just emotionless to pass along and go on to the next one. So it's like this competitive thing. Yeah. And I'm always running around like this particular quarter, we have a few partners, but we're switching roles. So I'm running around the office now, like yelling across the room, like things to say, because I'm on the whispering and whatnot. And just it's a repetition thing. I always say to people is it's not that I'm any better at what I do. It's just because I've done it so many different times. I'm no different than anybody that's in their craft. You're really good at generating, Facebook marketing content for what you do. but you weren't very good at it when you first started.
Right.
You had to repetitively, continuously do what you had to do to get to the point where you're really good. And that's the same thing with phone sales. You have to talk to 500 people in a row, and then you'll start to realize like 460 of them said the same exact things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
exactly the same things.
Well, that's what helps. That's why it helps to have a script, even if for the
Exactly.
people who are not comfortable or don't like the idea of a script because they fear it'll sound robotic, that's where it's helpful. And again, that's why I always tell people that if you're going to learn something new, it's best to stick to a script because you can repeat it over and over and see where you can improve or what's not working, what is working.
Absolutely. To this day, I still use a script. If I have to take a call,
Yeah.
I'm fumbling for it, but I still use a script. I think I posted a video last year of me doing a call, and I was literally reading from the script that I wrote.
That's right. You were
had to
selling, I
read.
think, a final expense plan that you're just like, I
Yeah.
hadn't done it in a while. And so I just popped up the script and I made the sale.
Yeah,
That's it.
because
That's
it
right.
works. That's it. As I always say to agents, you're not paid to think, you're paid to do. You're not in a polite, respectable way. You're paid
Sure.
to do. You're not paid to think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, absolutely.
And the quicker you can realize that you're just a doer and not a thinker. I was driving in, and I don't know how much time we have. I guess we're at the end. But I was driving in this morning, and I was like, God, it's been like 20 something years since I started finance. And I'm like, what did I do when I was 24 years old that maybe I'm not doing when I'm 45? So 21 years. And what I did then is essentially kind of what I do now. Is I just did. I was paid to do. I was paid to do jobs.
Yeah.
I had to set 10 appointments, so I did it. I had to, try to motivate those 10 appointments to actually come in the office. So I did that. When they came in the office, I had to read a presentation that I had to memorize. So I did that. When I collected all their documents, I had to put it into the computer. So I did that. Yes, there was some thinking and strategy along the way, but 90% of the job was physical labor, was doing stuff.
Yeah, the wheel was already invented. You don't have to reinvent it. You just got to come in and learn the mechanics of it and then just start going to work.
Exactly. And just repetitively do it over and over again.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a great way to end this podcast, is just with that insightful information, because I think a lot of agents can run with that and make that immediate change in their business to start seeing and affecting change. So with all that being said, again, I really thank you for joining me today on this holiday. This is great information. I think a lot of people are going to be excited to inquire with you about how to join your team and see what that's all about. So again, reach out to Joe. You can either reach out by Facebook, go to his Medicare Mentors group, check him out there. But these guys are an awesome group, and they're only growing. So watch out for Joe.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric. Take care.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Hey, thanks for checking out the podcast. If you want access to a huge discount on this proven system that gets agents writing business, increasing their revenues, and providing the ability to scale 100% over the phone, then send me a text message at 480-573-7559. This is a discount on the All Access package and applies to life and Medicare agents in the senior insurance industry. If you want access to the product knowledge, the scripts, the tools, the ongoing training, then you've found the right place at seniorsalesuniversity.com. Again, seniorsalesuniversity.com. See you on the next one.